Fast life, the fast living. They see the ambition, they know I'm past driven. Look, we are not the same, this is not a game. I be swerving through the city in and out of lanes. Yeah, cause if I see it, then I want it, then you better know I got it. Ain't no options, I'm about to do the damn thing. I'm an outlaw, you can never catch me. I'm in first place, you can never. These are the moments, only got one life. This is your moment, whether wrong or right.
Hello everyone, welcome to the Spot Real Talk. My name is Tiara.
I'm Tiffany.
And I'm Ron.
And we are back today to recap a new show to Amazon Prime. It is called Cross. And it is based off of the book series on the character Alex Cross, who is a big-time detective in D.C. area solving some of the biggest crimes in the capital. So we are very excited to cover this show. Especially as some folks from the DMV area. So we had a lot of appreciation for the show. We're going to get more into that. Yes, repping. But before we get started, please make sure you guys subscribe to our channel, like this video, and click that notification bell so you get alerted whenever we post. Because we are going to do these recaps of Cross episode by episode, so that way we don't miss any of the juicy details as we go along. And Ron, I know you had something you wanted to mention about, how the show is kind of structured. Everything is kind of already available.
Yeah, just simply that I know some of you probably have already seen maybe all of the episodes, and some of you may be doing a couple at a time, but I want you to stick with us because, we get real juicy in some of our recaps, and I'm almost certain this is going to be one of them. We've already had some discussion about the eye candy of this show. So.
Yes.
We will get into that.
Get into all the eye candy. I mean, first of all, I just want to start out saying the cast, amazing casting.
Absolutely.
For this Cross series. This is not the first time that somebody has, made, brought the Cross book series to TV. We've seen Tyler Perry was Alex Cross before. And this time it's going to, be a kind of TV series version instead of a movie. And I think so far from what I'm seeing online, a lot of people are very happy with the casting because I can't be, like y'all said, Aldous Hodge. Woo! I mean, and Ron, I know you had a little your googly eyes for Samantha.
Samantha, you are so fine. Okay.
But yeah, we're gonna talk more about that. But first of all, let's start off how things get kicked off, introducing us to Alex Cross in this whole series. So that, like we said, there's a lot of DC imagery. We get to see that. They're the wife Maria, they're out to lunch and she's rocking her Redskins scarf and whatnot, and it looks like they're having a good time, having some friendly banter over lunch, and she steps away for a second to go to the restroom but ends up getting gunned down. And so obviously Alex is trying to save her, but he really can't do anything to recapture the moment and kind of save her life, which the title of this kind of episode comes into play, that hero complex. And he mentioned that a little bit later on this episode, why he has that hero complex. But we are introduced to him. He has that incident with his wife, and then it flashes forward a year later. And so he's kind of struggled with her loss and is dealing with her grief. He's considering taking a leave of absence from work and whatnot. So it's very apparent that this deeply affected him. And his family too. So he's getting ready to do his leave of absence, but he overhears another interrogation going on. And we kind of get a feel for his smarts, because he's not, a lead detective for no reason. He's not renowned in his area for no reason. We kind of get a little glimpse into that when he goes and does that interrogation, and he overhears the white supremacist who had killed his wife and unborn child. And he essentially confessed to the murder inadvertently. not thinking that anybody would catch on to his Macbeth reference. But Cross picked it up, and he knew exactly what was going on when he said, the fitful fever and how that's a affliction of guilt and whatnot. So I was really kind of like impressed, because most people, I think, wouldn't know that off the top of their head.
Well, he's a doctor of psychology too.
That's what I was going to say.
Yes, and well read too. So it's another thing, and that's why he caught it. But I love the way he handled old boy, because he was just racist up and down. And when he said, "Oh, you think you're smarter than me?" and he said, "Well, that goes without saying." He said, "Okay, then my Johnson is bigger than yours," and instantly he caught an attitude. So he leaned
right into that racial epithet.
He sure did. So, and I like that. I like that he's very quick and well educated. And I tell you, I'm hooked. Just 5 minutes into episode 1, and I'm hooked.
Yeah, for sure. And he even threw some DC lingo in there, called him Slim.
Yes, he did.
Yes, they did a good job capturing the essence of DC with some of the scenery. They had a little cameo by Backyard Band in that.
Yes, I was saying they had the go-go. I was like, all right.
And if you get to DC, or if you live here and you haven't been, you got to check out Ben's Chili Bowl.
It is a landmark in DC.
It's a landmark,
a literal landmark.
When I went to Howard, that's that was our number 1, number 2 stop. So you got to check it out.
Yeah. So as we kind of step through this series, we're kind of being introduced to Alex and his family. So he has 2 children, Damon and Janie, and he lives with his grandmother, and he calls her Nan. Nana Mama. Yeah. And so we'll kind of, I guess, learn more about their kind of inner workings of their family later on as the season progresses. But for now, we're kind of just getting the basics, and we know that he's lost his wife. The whole family is kind of grieving from that. But the incident with the children, where there's somebody clearly stalking this family. We seen them kind of hiding in the shadows as the family was leaving the house and whatnot, and somebody went back in to replace the scarf that was taken. The redskin scarf that Maria wore the day she got killed was missing from the scene of her death, and now it mysteriously just shows back up. And Damon has it on when he goes to school. So Alex gets called in regards to that, and it's very clear that he's shocked, like, where did this come from? He's been looking for it, and it was obviously missing, but it just randomly appears with his son. So that just sends him down the rabbit hole again, which is kind of a problem for Alex, because not only does he have this grief and this rage, which he kind of took out on Damon, but he also goes down these rabbit holes, which leads him to trouble at work. And his partner, Sampson, notoriously, we see first of all, I recognized him as the Old Spice guy. But I was like, this is my first time seeing him acting in a series, and I was really impressed with his acting chops. So I was like, okay, now let me find out.
Too. I think
the 2 of them are a great match. I didn't realize he was as tall as he was. But he's got that, hey, good looking brother. I mean, I give it up to him.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Said the ladies ain't mad.
No, we're not mad at all.
I know y'all aren't. I mean, hey, I ain't mad either. So, we can hold with that. But I kind of felt some kind of way initially when we noticed that John Sampson had something to do with the heat, if you will, or shall I say, the light being placed on
Alex.
Alex, because he felt that Alex needed to take a break, and he did. But I mean, and I can understand that, but I wasn't. I don't know.
I know what you mean. You feel like he snitched on Alex and stuff, and this is his childhood friend. Exactly. But because he's his childhood friend and he knows him, he like he said, he didn't think it would cost him his badge. He thought they would just make him go to counseling. He wasn't expecting the consequences that happened to him.
Which is interesting because when you look at Chief Anderson, who was, for all intents and purposes, she's just one of those police officers. If it's black, it's got to have something to do with drugs and alcohol and crime, and not to mention Lieutenant Macy, who initially she seemed like she was in the corner with John and Alex, but she let Chief Anderson to kind of override everything. She just wouldn't really speak up. And it's one of those common situations that we find ourselves in as blacks, that if we're dead, if we're like, killed in the street, it has something to do with drugs. And it was nothing of the sort, or at least if it was, it had nothing to do with what they thought it had to. So I was a little upset with John because John, hey, you all can solve this thing in a minute, but you got so much adversity, that you got to cut between, and it just kind of left things wide open. It's like an open wound that you couldn't close.
Well, look, here's the thing. So, Alex was trying to take a break. He was trying to take the voluntary leave of absence, and she said, Chief Anderson, "Oh, I know that you were going to do that, but when they needed to parade a black face out there,
exactly,
that's when she was like, oh, but you can't do that right now." Right. So he was trying to step away. He was trying to step away, and they put him in out there saying, everybody knows you, and you look pretty, and you don't have to say anything, you just show up and things like that. So that's the part that annoyed me about her, is that she wasn't trying to hear nothing he had to say. Like when he was trying to, I like the part in the episode when he asked her, when he was bringing real issues, like, hey, he could have been murdered. Like it may not be a straight up suicide or unaliving of himself or whatever. And she was like, he said, do you want to solve this, or do you want to fix the PR problem? And I appreciated the fact that he asked her that straight up.
Right. Yeah, because it's very clear that she has an agenda. She's trying to clean things up as easy as possible and get the path of least resistance. Basically, right. She just wants to make the police department look good, because they're already caught in this media windstorm, which you kind of brought up, because this show has a lot of layers. So we kind of talked about Alex and how he has this emotional burden of like kind of losing his wife and then still dealing with the fallout of that. But then like he also has to live up to his duties at work, and he's a top detective. And so like you said, wanting to take that leave of absence, but being unable to, because there's this hot murder that's just been in the news, and it happens to be somebody who was opposed to the police department. So he had this whole defund the police advocacy going. His name was Amir Goodspeed. And then when he shows up murdered, and all of his hair shaven off, and it's kind of like the family's assumption is like, oh, this had to be retaliation for what he was saying publicly against the police. And so in Chief's eyes, it's like, oh, well, we're just going to do whatever we can to make this easy, open and closed case. And right. Alex, I think I really appreciated that he wasn't trying, like you said, he wasn't trying to let her take the easy route out of that.
No, because it's not far-fetched that, because remember, he was a former drug dealer and so forth. And it's not far-fetched that the police could do something like that, because you have some vengeful cops, you got crooked cops. So, you have to look up under each rock to determine what's exactly going on. But like you said, it was a PR thing for her. So let's just close the books as quickly as possible. Mm-hmm. I thought too, Amir's sister could have given Alex a little more slack than she did. I mean, I understand her situation. She's grieving too,
right?
But I think she was a little rough on Alex in the beginning.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, she saw it for what it was, though. She was like, "Your boss sent you, didn't she?" And then what he did, he didn't say nothing because he knew that his white chief did send him.
Everybody got a boss.
Huh?
Everybody got a boss.
I know what I'm saying, but she was grieving, number one. And number two, she did see it for what it was. But the thing that I did appreciate about Alex is that he also knew Amir, because we saw Alex's interaction with the mom. And the mom was like, I remember you. Mm-hmm. You were in the court. You defended him when he was Kenny. So he wasn't just like a perk to him. Like he's like, oh, I know this kid, and I know this kid was a good kid. I know this kid had turned his life around, and that's why it's not so cut and dry that that this guy, that, as Malika said, he had locks, and then now he's clean shaven.
I mean,
converted to Islam, and his last meal he has pork chop in the system. And one last thing I want to say is that he was a Black Lives Matter activist, and in real life in the news there have been, and I'm not saying that any of them were murdered or anything like that, but there have been several Black Lives Matters activists who have been found unalive over the recent years and stuff. So I like the way this show kind of weave this into this storyline.
Yeah. Yeah, and like you said, it's so much about the case with Amir that just does not make sense. He had type 2 diabetes, and why would he be taking these hard drugs that he knew
that would make him
and so I think that going into all of those little details, it makes sense why Alex would be like, something don't really sit right with me about this, and so I'm glad that the chief did allow him. She gave him a very small window to try to chase down some leads and whatnot. And so,
48 hours. But see, here's my problem with the chief, and that's the last I'll say of it. But if he's a top cop, he's a top cop. Now you listen to him on all these other cases, so why not give him the benefit of the doubt on this case too? And I think that she might have been, as much as anything else, the cause of his, as we saw later on in the episode, not so much a breakdown, but the cause of his frustration, because you're putting them in this, real tight window, and this is a big case, and they weren't dealing with a dummy. So, give me a break. 48 hours. What are you going to find out in 48 hours?
Nothing. And that's what I think, that's her hope, that nothing would be found out, and he would just have to go with her narrative.
Exactly.
Exactly. Because when they went to eat, what did she say? She said, so which is it? Is it suicide or overdose? And he was like, no, neither. Right. So she already had written a narrative of what she was going to put in the file. The report was already written in her mind.
Exactly.
Yeah. So that chief is getting hands from me.
Yeah, she
we gonna get to that.
Absolutely deserves a hand. Absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah. But there's also this thing with the serial killer. He's kind of like posting this picture of Amir right next to the picture of the Sandman, who is a serial killer. And so it's very clear that, like, okay, whoever this serial killer is, he purposely changed Amir's image to kind of match that of the serial killer. Now, right now, Alex doesn't know that he's matching this appearance to the serial killer, but it's obvious like that he intentionally did that to make him look like somebody else.
And he's not only doing that, he is not just matching their appearances, he's matching up everything, like how they died. Like when he showed his little scrapbook, his little Bible, when you saw the details for the Sandman, it showed that, like, I think he died by lethal injection. That's how he killed Amir. He showed his last meal was the pork chops and so forth. That's the last meal he gave Amir. So he did everything right down to
T.
And I have to say my hat's off to Ryan Eggold, because as Ed Ramsey, man, you the man. You played.
But I don't know if I'm giving my hats off to him, because if you are the serial killer, which is very, very clear that Ed Ramsey is the serial killer, at least to the audience, we kind of get to see firsthand, like right up front, that okay, this Ed Ramsey dude is doing some sketchy stuff. But I'm like, you're doing some foul stuff in the background, but you're expressing interest in the cases. When Cross went to the dinner or the gala or whatever, and he's there, and Ed Ramsey kind of introduces himself and like is fanboying out, like, oh, I know who you are. You were on this case and you have all this notoriety. What about that Goodspeed case? Are you on? Like, he was just really inquisitive, and
that's what made me suspect him, because I was like, this guy, he know too much. So he was suspicious to me. And plus, I gotta admit, I watch a lot of the 48 hours. I've watched a lot of the serial killer, Ted Bundy, Gacy. I've watched a lot of them and stuff. And one of the things that a lot of those serial killers like to do, they like to revisit the crime. They read the news. They want the notoriety. They want to be known and stuff, and they stay close to stuff. And on some of them, they even, what's it called? Like the Zodiac killer used to write the police and things like that. So that's what made me suspect him too. I was like, oh yeah, this guy, he might.
But you got to give him credit for owning DC. I mean, he was in the who's who of. I mean, he knew everybody, and everybody.
Yeah, he said a lot of people owe him favors.
Owed him favors, and that's what I mean, his storytelling was excellent. And yeah, some of the things I think they wanted us to know pretty early, or give us a hint pretty early who he may be. Because as you said earlier, the storyline is so intricate that it really didn't matter when we found out or what we knew of him as much, because they were only going to build up on it. And so but his acting, and
he's
very sinister.
He's scary. Yeah, he was scary.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, he proved that role, to make you want to check his real background.
You add to it that he has this kind of shady hitman on his team, this Bobby dude.
Yeah.
And so it's like, okay, we don't have a whole lot of details about Bobby right now, but we know that he has connects within the police department enough to ask, can you trace down this license plate?
Well, he was an ex-police officer too.
He was a former cop.
Well,
he was a former cop. So then again, and he was cool too. I liked his demeanor. I could see him on Power. I love his demeanor. He's crazy.
He's crazy too. No, he's a different type of crazy. Like
he's a different type of crazy,
but he's a different type of crazy.
Right. And it's clear that this dude is like, okay, he must have some incentive to do this stuff for Ed. And so he's chasing down Tavio on his side, but then on the flip side, Detective Cross is also chasing down Tavio, because he realizes that Tavio was the last person that Amir spoke to on this burner phone. And so they kind of like meet up at this the vigil for Amir, and they end up confronting him like, hey, we want to talk to you or whatever. But Tavio goes on the run, and it's like, oh my God, he looks guilty off the top. I'm like, I'm wondering in my head, did Tavio have anything to do with this murder? Because taking off running and then grabbing up a hostage and whatnot, if that don't make you look guilty, I don't know what do.
I know, but I think a lot of black people run for the cops. So
but you would, you would think that Tavio had there was some relationship, not I shouldn't say relationship, maybe that's not the word, but he knew John and Alex. So it wasn't like two white cops coming up on him that had their guns drawn already. They did want to talk to him, and rightfully so.
But they are cops.
Well, they're cops.
You know how that looks when folks, especially folks in the hood, that when you are seen talking to the cops, people automatically assume you're a snitch. If anybody, the Wire fans, you being seen talking to the cops in the hood was a death sentence.
Yeah, except it's interesting too, because even with that first shot with the death of his wife, I said to myself, that's only one shot, and I'm like, okay, was she?
It was a sniper shot.
Yeah, I mean, she was, that's who they wanted to kill, and it's the same thing with Tavio. It was just that one shot, so you knew that this is who they were after. And I think he was doomed anyway, whether he ran or not, because, it was just one of those things. Had he been seen again on the streets, they probably would have thought he was caught and talked. So he was doomed the moment they picked him out. So
yeah, I mean, but at this point, so Tavio, he's on the run. He ends up getting arrested, but then taken out by the sniper. But it's kind of obvious that from that conversation that Ed was having with Bobby after the fact, he was like, did you clean up our little mess or whatever? And did all his secrets go with him? It's kind of like, okay, so clearly Tavio had some information that Ed doesn't want getting out in regards to Amir. And so it's like, okay,
that phone could have been maybe traced back to him. That's why I think that they were after.
Yeah. And so it's like, okay, so this Ed guy, not only is he very wealthy and very well connected, but it's like he really is. He's pulling all the strings in DC. It seems like from the top to the bottom, from the highest person in office to the lowest,
even the technology,
ex police officer in the department.
Even the technology, because you see that while he is looking for his next victim, you know, in his scrapbook, the next victim is Eileen Wuornos. And I was like, I don't know if you guys ever saw that movie about her monster that Charlize Theron won the Oscar for. Yeah, that she was a woman serial killer. And so he was trying to look for his next victim, and you can see him on the computer doing like the match. Apparently, she was on a dating app, and he was, he connected her with a fake profile, and he's communicating with her. He's stalking her. As a matter of fact, it even started even before that. Like when she went to go get a drink, like a coffee or whatever to stand, the guy took a picture of her. He had everybody working for him. And sent a picture to him, and then it started from there. He just started stalking her, cyber stalking her and everything. So I was like, he was really like you said, not only wealthy and connected, but he was just
savvy all the way around.
Right.
Yeah. So it's like we got these kind of tangential storylines, and at first I wasn't really sure if the stalking that Cross is experiencing was related to what's going on with the serial killer. I'm like, is the serial killer kind of taunting Cross too? Like this stuff with the flowers constantly being sent to the police department, and then he gets flowers to his house again with a picture with his wife's eyes crossed out, and then this mysterious phone call. I'm like, what is this about? And, from the previews of the series, it looks like he's saying it's somebody from his past, though. So I'm like, okay, so we got two different storylines that are kind of running side by side.
But it's clear that while he, the serial killer may not be the one from his past or whatever, he was definitely keeping tabs on Cross through Bobby.
Yes.
Because Bobby was letting him know, like, whatever he found out about Cross, or like Cross is looking for Tavio too, or whatever, he was taking that information back and stuff. So he was definitely keeping tabs on his investigation as well.
But Bobby warned him. Bobby also warned him. He said, in a couple of instances, but I don't know. It's sometimes it's just, Ed had such an ego that he thought nobody could stop him, and he just ran.
Well, that's apparent in how blatant he is. He ran
if y'all watch some of the things, like I said, I watched the thing about Ted Bundy. He was exactly the same. I hear stuff like when he said, "I'm gonna represent myself." He represented himself in the court and everything. Like his ego was
huge.
You're right, and I remember the Ted Bundy story. But one of the, and I guess that's what kept me so intrigued with this with Cross, because, as you said, I think that they had a lot of legitimate former killers, and the way they tied it into the show was just excellent, and I really just I can't say enough about it.
Well, I'm really enjoying this first episode so far. And like you said, Ron, intriguing is the word, because it kind of pulls you in and then keeps you there. And so that's one thing I found myself doing. Once I started, it was like I binged it straight through. And I know we're going to recap episode by episode, so I'm going to be very careful not to spill details of every episode after this one, but I will say that I'm giving my thoughts as I was thinking them while I'm watching each episode. And I was like, wow, like this show is going to be good. It's really lit. Not only because we are native to the DC area and we can appreciate the little cultural references they throw in there, but also the acting and the casting is really great. And then the storyline itself is just like, it leaves you kind of guessing like, oh, what's about to happen? So I just think that overall it was very, very well done. And I've been seeing a lot of praise on social media and online for this show. So I'm really excited to continue recapping this one. I don't know if you guys want to express some of your thoughts.
No, same. In fact, I was a little concerned with the fact that he had kids and things like that, because when you're a top cop like that, as well as a doctor, you can almost expect somebody's going to come after you. And I think he knew that, but when you're in situations like that, I could see the hero complex. I mean, you got to stand tall. You got to stand, you got to be 10 toes down on what you're doing, and you got these kids and a family to take care of. And
well, it kind of don't line up. But
no, also, did you say the same thing about Ghost? It was okay for
Ghost. No. The difference with Ghost, well, first of all, Ghost was a ghost. So, in as much as people knew of him, Ghost just wasn't front and center like Alex is. Alex is front and center. Well, but I'm saying he wasn't front and center. Being the villain is a little different than being a cop, because a cop has all sorts of restrictions. A villain doesn't. So,
Alex was a super cop because he was the psychologist and everything.
Yeah, and so and plus the fact that he has a family, so there's a lot of restrictions placed on him in terms of what he can do and what he can't do. But I mean Ghost. I mean,
if we talk, there really is no comparison between Alex and Ghost.
I don't think.
No, I know that. I'm just saying. What I'm saying is the line of work. But if you're saying you're saying the line of work
is high risk.
Is high risk.
Higher risk.
And having a family. Right. The line of work that Ghost was in, because he was, a nightclub owner, but we know that Ghost was also a kingpin, was also risky.
But it was just that it's how Ghost established himself in his occupation, because he had nobody to answer to but himself. Whereas Alex, it's just a plethora of people he has to go through, namely Chief Anderson,
and all this stuff,
Lieutenant Macy, the politics, the policing, and not to mention having a family on top of that. So it's much more weighted on his side than it was, I'd say, Ghost. So, but you're right, Tiara. I wouldn't put the two together. I know Tiffany was just throwing a rock at my hand.
I'm not saying that it's the same. I'm just saying I was just talking only about the risk. The risk of their jobs, the risk they have.
High risk.
Okay.
Yeah.
But
go ahead, Tiff.
No, go ahead.
Well, I was gonna say I hadn't read the book series, but based on what some people who had read the book were saying, I don't know why. Maybe they were thinking that his children were a little bit younger in the book series. I don't know if that was because, like I said, I haven't seen it, but also I don't know about the previous Cross movie with how some of the comparisons there might be some similarities, some differences. So I would be interested in kind of going and getting some cliff notes on all of them and doing a side-by-side comparison to see what's different and how is this Cross series kind of putting a spin and adding its own flavor to that story.
And they did, because I remember Alex Cross. Kind of
familiar with it.
I am. I remember Alex Cross, and I don't see much similarity between the two other than.
So it seemed like this show is pretty unique in there. It literally is adding its own flavor to it.
Yeah, and that's what made it, I think, so good, because
because this is my only point of reference, and I was impressed. I was like, I like what I'm seeing so far.
Yeah,
and with the book, is Alex Cross even Black? I'm not sure. I'm not sure that he is.
No, that's a good point too.
I don't think
that might be a research project for me to.
Yeah, I was gonna say I don't think that one of the things that we didn't touch on this recap, the conversation at the table when he went to dinner over Elle's house, and when he had to blow up with the guy who was saying, "How can you be Black and be a cop and stuff like that?" I thought that was a really interesting debate, because it touches on a lot of conversations. I've heard that conversation before, in our community and stuff. So I just thought that was interesting that they dropped that in there. And because he was already kind of on edge because he was kind of beefing with
John.
his partner John. He was, and before they even started. And then when they went and dude was touching buttons and talking about the Black community and stuff. And when Alex and them was like, well, where you live? Georgetown? You're so in touch
because
with
like I do kind of like that point that you're making too, because within Black culture, it's not monolithic. We always say that. And it's true, because here you have these people who are all Black folks, but they might have opposing views. They might be on different scales within society and the economic privileged side. When he's saying, "Oh, I'm born and raised Southeast, I still live there," and the other dude they're like, "Where you from? Georgetown?" Like you say, that's the richer area, the more affluent area. So, like, even within this Black conversation, you can see how there's a lot of differences in socioeconomics and in just thought, and how the police, how they approach police conversations, where Elle is saying, well, maybe we need to, she believes in defunding, but also doing peace officers.
Exactly.
And Alex is on the other side of things, where he's like, I'm a detective, like I'm in it,
So,
right.
I guess the question is, do you think Alex should have done what he did with old boy? I mean, because he jacked him up, and I thought it was, for me, I'm like, right, yeah, jack him up, because he needed to get his collar straight. And
he the dude was definitely poking the bear.
Yeah,
Alex was already on edge.
Exactly.
He's already on edge. It's only been, he said, a little over a year since he lost his wife. He's great, and this is why John keeps saying, I want you to see somebody, I want you to take care of you, like, this is his boy from childhood, so he sees. So he deserved it. He deserved to be jacked up. But him being a cop, you can't lose your cool like that. That's
that's a problem.
That's a problem.
That's what I'm saying. It's like a lot of Alex's reactions are based on his grief and stuff that he has not dealt with yet. And so it seems like that's why he tends to blow up like at the drop of a dime. He has these big flare-ups that he seems to be kind of like not really able to control. Like Elle tried to stop him. She's like, look, like don't go there. And he was like, no, it's a hypothetical.
Right. Well, I mean, he grew up in the hood. I mean, what do you expect from him? I
mean, growing up in the hood is not an excuse to blow up.
I don't mean to say I don't mean to say that as a blanket statement, but I'm just saying Alex has an edge on him. I think had his wife not been shot, he just has an edge. You can see the edge on him. His partner has one too.
I think he might have been more composed. I think the fact that his wife died, because especially him being a psychologist and stuff, you also have to be like you're dealing with people, you're studying and you're taking in their stories and all that stuff and everything.
But dude got under his skin. I don't care.
Yeah, he did. But typically he probably wouldn't be able to do, because he was temperate. Think about how measured he was when he went in there and he dealt with that racist white supremacist. He was like, even though he had all this other stuff under, he was in control, and he controlled that conversation from beginning to end. When that guy, that brother got under his skin, and
because I think he kind of humiliated him a little bit, because you got your lady there, it's the environment. The dude he opened up a whole
sellout.
He
called him sellouts.
Without actually saying it. That's what
without saying it. That's what you're saying.
Yeah, and he put him on the defensive too. So it's like
exactly. He put him on the defense, and I'm just thinking he lost it, not so much because of anything else. It's just that I can see you losing it in a situation like that, because dude was just kept going. He kept running his mouth about it. And, sometimes you just got to know when to shut up.
And you got to think about it too, because like there was a lot of people coming at him sideways just for being a cop, like Malika, and some people in the community and all of that. So it's like, it's almost like it's kind of a thankless job on his behalf. Like he's doing he's put all his efforts in to trying to be a good, upstanding cop and try to represent for the community and do the right thing and make sure they don't just sweep stuff under the rug. But in the public eyes, they don't get to see none of that. And it's like, oh, you a cop, you a sellout, you a this, you a that.
Well, but that's because, Black people have a very interesting relationship with the cops.
Of course. And I'm not saying their opinions aren't based on it. They're not, without merit.
Right. So it's like.
And then add on top, he's got a chief that he's got to answer to that's
determined to spin the narrative.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I get it.
Politics, and then with them being in DC too. On
top of that, God.
That's
the political capital of the world. Exactly.
Nation's capital. So, in the Black Matter, shoot, we saw firsthand in the news how that was blowing up, Black Lives Matter, and how that took over, and and George Floyd and all of that stuff. So they were trying to tamp down the narrative before it became really political.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I know we're running a little long on this recap. There's just so many things to uncover and so many topics we keep jumping into. But I think we should try to put a button on this because we're getting a little long. Sure. But I'll say to all of the new people out there, and we kind of mentioned it already, but we do have a who can get the hands list. And that's our list of people in our recaps and in the shows that we want to watch that we say, okay, they can get these hands. Like, they got to square up. So we've already mentioned that Chief Anderson can get the hands. She's definitely out of line a lot of times. Yeah. Like we said, trying to sweep stuff under the rug and point things to match her narrative and whatever's easiest for the police department. I want to give old boy, the white supremacist, the hands too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do y'all have any other nominations?
Lieutenant Macy, she can get the hands.
Who else?
Ramsey. Ed Ramsey.
But Lieutenant Macy, because I think she could have spoke up for Alex a little more than she did with her chief. I know that she, it's the chief, but Alex best. So if you got the man on the job, you called him in, as you said earlier, he wanted to take a break, but you called him back to play this PR campaign, but him best and that he can solve these cases, but you kind of sat back and just let Chief Anderson run the show. So you get the hands for that.
I'm not mad at that. Okay. All right. Now, do we have a nomination for the game ball? Now, the game ball is somebody who we feel had like a very noteworthy kind of performance or some kind of action during this episode. So, game ball, anyone? Alex. We're just kind of getting introduced to him, and like I said, I was impressed with him a lot this episode, just from what we've seen very little of so far. I'm impressed with him.
How about what's her name? Sharon, the FBI.
Are you talking about Kayla, the lady that helped him get the
name
burner phone?
Yeah, she did. She did. That was solid. That was solid. She came through with the phone, the name of the phone. Yeah. So I can see that.
Okay. Kayla and Cross. I'm not mad. Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, this has been a really good opening episode. I think a lot of people, like I said, are really enjoying the series, and whether you have binged it all the way through or if you are taking it easy episode by episode, please continue to stick with us and make sure you tune into our recap, because we're going to dig deep into some of these topics, because there's a lot of meat to chew on, and I'm glad that they added so much substance to this show that gives us some talking points. If you have any thoughts on this episode or the series as a whole, please do not drop any spoilers, but go down into the comments and let us know your thoughts on this series and how you feel about it. Also, make sure you are subscribed to our channel, like the video, and click that notification bell, because we are going to continue dropping episode by episode. We're also on all social media platforms at The Spot Real Talk, so you can give us a follow there. And if you're familiar with The Spot Real Talk, you know that we have a playlist full of interviews from cast members and crew that have been a part of some of the series that we recap. So, don't be surprised if we find a way to get some people from Cross. And so I'm just saying, we're going to work on that and seeing if we can get a cast interview or two. Tiff, Ron, y'all got anything else you want to add?
I think you said it all.
Right.
Okay. Well, on that note, we are going to call it a night. Thank you all so much for watching, and make sure you are back this same time next week for another episode recap of Cross. And if you haven't started watching, hop on it because it is an amazing series.
Prime Video. Don't forget Prime
Amazon
Video. Check
Prime.
it out. Amazon Prime. There you go.
All right, y'all. Good night.
Good night now.
We got it next. That's how you finesse. We come for they next. We come to collect. Did it all on my